In the rugged mountains of Montana, Tom Oar was once a symbol of survival. But behind his calm demeanor and rugged lifestyle lies a heartbreaking tragedy that few know about. What happened to this legend of the wild? What dark secrets has he hidden from the world? Stick around, because in just a moment we're diving into the untold story of Tom Oar, the tragedy that shook him and how it changed everything. You won't want to miss this. It's the beginning of trapping season, and in the rugged wilderness of Montana's Yaak River Valley, master trapper Tom Oar is already hard at work. Even at over 75 years old, Tom is still cutting new trails, breaking ground, and setting traps the old-fashioned way, by hand. It's grueling, dangerous, and unforgiving work, but for Tom, it's more than a job. It's a way of life. There aren't many people his age still braving the elements in one of the most remote corners of the United States, and even fewer who do it all for the love of tradition and the call of the wild. Renowned for his no-frills, off-the-grid lifestyle, Tom Oar became a household name after appearing on the reality TV series Mountain Men, which chronicles the lives of individuals who have chosen to live far from modern society. Since his debut on the show in 2012, Tom quickly became a fan favorite. His quiet strength, deep knowledge of the land, and unwavering dedication to a simpler way of life captivated viewers worldwide. But in recent years, fans have begun to worry. Tom's appearances on the show have become less frequent, and online rumors have swirled regarding his health, his future on the show, and even his mortality. The mystery surrounding Tom only deepened when he took a step back from the spotlight, leading many fans to question, what happened to Tom Oar? Why did he disappear from the show for a time? And what led to his eventual return? Some speculated that the beloved mountain man had passed away, spurred on by misleading reports and a troubling health scare captured on camera. Others believed he had simply retired from television, seeking privacy and rest with his wife Nancy in their Florida home. But the truth, as always, is far more layered than rumors might suggest. As Tom Oar continues to navigate the vast wilderness, there's something not many people know about his life behind the scenes. Something so shocking, it could change everything. What drove this self-reliant man to step away from the cameras and make a dramatic shift in his lifestyle? The truth may be darker and more complicated than anyone could have imagined. And just when you think you've uncovered it all, an unexpected twist leaves Tom at a crossroads. What secrets is he hiding, and why is he so determined to keep them buried? The full story of his quiet disappearance is one that no one saw coming. But this isn't the end. There's still so much more to uncover about Tom's life, and what happens next will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about this rugged man of the wild. Will Tom finally reveal the truth, or has the mountain man's greatest struggle only just begun? Born in 1943 in Rockford, Illinois, Tom Oar didn't begin his life in the rugged mountains of Montana. But even from his earliest days, the pulse of the frontier seemed to beat within him. Rockford was far from a remote wilderness, but Tom was never one for city life. He was drawn to open spaces, wild animals, and a sense of self-reliance that couldn't be taught in a classroom. His upbringing was far from ordinary. Tom's father, Cheeky Oar, had a background that sparked the imaginations of his sons. He had performed in Wild West shows, thrilling crowds with horseback tricks, cowboy skills, and recreations of frontier life. These weren't just performances to Cheeky, they were tributes to a vanishing way of life. And he passed that reverence down to his sons. Tom and his older brother Jack grew up idolizing the cowboys of the old world. While other kids their age were content riding bicycles or playing stickball, Tom and Jack were out riding real horses, practicing trick stunts in open fields and county fairgrounds. With their father's steady guidance, they learned the art of trick riding, a discipline that required not just daring, but precision, athleticism, and complete trust between rider and horse. Hanging off the side of a galloping horse or standing tall in the saddle at full speed was not for the faint of heart, but for Tom, it was exhilarating. He was learning not only balance and bravery, but also how to live without fear, an attitude that would follow him through every stage of his life. The cowboy lifestyle wasn't just a hobby for Tom, it was a calling. By the time he reached his mid-teens, he was no longer satisfied with practicing in fields near home. At just 15 years old, he made a decision that would define his character and set him on a lifelong path of independence. His mother, recognizing his unwavering commitment to rodeo, did something extraordinary. She drove him to the edge of town and dropped him off, alone, with nothing but a gear bag, a bull rope, and his dream. His destination? A rodeo in Ohio. The only way to get there was to hitchhike. No friends, no money, no guarantees, just grit and the road ahead. Most teenagers would have turned back. Tom leaned in. He hitched rides across state lines, sometimes sleeping rough or living off cheap diner meals, all for a chance to compete. Once he arrived at the rodeo, he was just a skinny kid with a lot of heart, but it didn't take long for others to see that he had real talent. This wasn't a phase, it was his future. He threw himself into the world of bronc busting and bull riding, tackling each event with a ferocity that only those born to ride could understand. By the early 1960s, Tom had risen through the ranks of the International Rodeo Association. Competing in arenas across the US and Canada, he made a name for himself not just for his skill, but for his consistency and sportsmanship. He regularly placed in the top 10 in both bareback and saddle bronc events, considering the brutal toll rodeo takes on the body. Injuries were frequent and the prize money was modest. But Tom wasn't chasing fame or fortune. He rode because it made him feel alive. Every time he climbed onto a bucking animal, he wasn't just chasing points. He was challenging himself, pushing his limits, proving he could master chaos with nothing but balance, strength, and courage. And with him, every step of the way was Nancy. The two met during Tom's rodeo years, and their bond quickly became the bedrock of his life. Nancy didn't just tolerate his lifestyle, she embraced it. She was there for the highs and the lows, the wins and the hospital visits. While many couples would have crumbled under the pressure of constant travel, financial uncertainty, and physical danger, Tom and Nancy grew stronger. Their partnership would become the foundation for the next chapter of their lives, one that would take them far from the spotlight of rodeo arenas and deep into the heart of the Montana wilderness. Even in those early years, it was clear that Tom was never going to follow the traditional path. He didn't crave security in the way others did. He wasn't afraid of hard work or hardship. What he valued above all was freedom. The kind of freedom that comes from knowing how to live off the land, trusting your own hands, and forging your own path without relying on anyone else. Long before he became a reality TV star or a symbol of self-reliance, Tom Oar was already living the code of the mountain man. The seeds of that life were planted in Rockford, but they would bloom in the wild. But on Valentine's Day in 1970, everything changed in an instant that would end one chapter of Tom Oar's life and begin another that no one, not even Tom, could have predicted. It started out like any other day on the rodeo circuit, with crowds filling the stands, the smell of dust and adrenaline in the air, and Tom preparing for yet another 8-second ride on a bull nearly twice his weight. He was a seasoned cowboy, one who had spent years earning respect on the circuit, competing at high levels and enduring countless bruises, sprains, and fractures in the name of the sport he loved. But this ride would be different. This one would leave a mark far deeper than any rodeo injury he had suffered before. The moment the chute opened, the bull exploded out into the arena with unrelenting force, bucking with such ferocity that even Tom, with all his experience, couldn't stay mounted for more than a few seconds. He was thrown violently through the air, hitting the ground hard. The impact knocked him unconscious, his body limp as the massive animal continued to thrash, dragging him mercilessly across the arena floor like a rag doll. The crowd gasped in horror, the energy in the stadium turning from excitement to sheer panic. Nancy, who had been watching from the sidelines, rushed toward the chaos with her heart in her throat, unsure if her husband would ever open his eyes again. Tom was rushed to the nearest hospital, his face bloodied and his body battered. He remained unconscious for over 3 hours, with doctors unsure of the full extent of his injuries. When he finally awoke, it was clear that something had shifted, not just in his body, but in his spirit. Though he survived, the accident was a wake-up call. His body, which had already endured years of punishment, could no longer withstand the physical demands of professional rodeo. The risk of another fall, of a worse injury, or even death was simply too great. It was a heartbreaking decision, but Tom knew it was time to walk away from the sport that had defined so much of his life. His rodeo days were officially over, and yet, as one path closed, another began to emerge. Tom and Nancy, both seeking a quieter, more grounded existence, turned their gaze toward the mountains, toward the promise of something simpler, something more meaningful. They packed up what little they owned, left behind the stadiums, the crowds, and the roar of the rodeo, and headed north toward the remote Yaak Valley in Montana. It was a bold and uncertain move, but it felt right. The couple was drawn not to comfort or convenience, but to the raw beauty of the wilderness and the challenge of building a new life from scratch. Their new life was anything but easy. In the early years, the isolation was extreme. With no neighbors nearby and few modern amenities, every aspect of survival had to be earned. They built their own log cabin from the ground up, chopping trees by hand and learning to rely on the land for everything. They hunted wild game for food, trapped animals for fur, and gathered what they could from the forests that surrounded them. Winters were brutal, sometimes lasting up to 8 months, with snowdrifts so high they had to dig their way out just to move between buildings. Every day was a lesson in endurance, and every success, no matter how small, was hard-won. But there was a peace in it too, a kind of satisfaction that couldn't be found on the rodeo circuit or in crowded cities. For Tom and Nancy, the silence of the woods, the rhythm of nature, and the freedom to live by their own hands brought a sense of purpose that no paycheck or applause ever could. And it was during one of those quiet, early years in Montana that Tom stumbled across something that would completely reshape his new life's direction. Inside a small Native American shop, Tom picked up a modest $3 booklet. It was unassuming, just a few pages stapled together, but its contents fascinated him. The booklet explained traditional brain tanning techniques, a centuries-old method used by indigenous communities to turn raw animal hides into soft, durable leather using the animal's own brain as the tanning agent. The process was both scientific and spiritual, rooted in respect for the animal and an understanding of natural materials. Tom, already a skilled trapper and hunter, saw in this technique a new way to connect with the animals he harvested, not just as a source of food or income, but as part of a larger cycle. He threw himself into learning the craft with the same passion he had once given to rodeo. Day after day, he experimented, practiced, and failed, stretching hides over frames, massaging brain mixtures into the skin, and smoking the leather to preserve it. Slowly but surely, he began to master the technique. The result was unlike anything he had ever worked with before. Soft, pliable, breathable buckskin that was durable enough for harsh winters and beautiful enough to wear with pride. Soon Tom was creating jackets, moccasins, pants, and pouches, not just for his own use, but to sell. He began traveling to black powder rendezvous events, historical gatherings that celebrated 19th century frontier culture, where he sold his goods to fellow enthusiasts. His work stood out for its authenticity and craftsmanship, and word of his skills began to spread. What had started as a curiosity from a $3 booklet had blossomed into a thriving artisan business, and an essential part of the legend that Tom Oar was unknowingly building. This newfound craftsmanship, refined over years of living off the land and perfecting ancient survival techniques, eventually caught the attention of television producers who were on the lookout for something real. In an age when reality TV was becoming increasingly contrived and overproduced, they wanted something different. They were searching for authentic stories, people who weren't acting for the camera but were instead just living their lives, raw, rugged, and unfiltered. And they found exactly that in Tom Oar. In 2012, Mountain Men premiered on the History Channel, and Tom, alongside his wife Nancy, was introduced to audiences across America as one of the show's original cast members. It was a decision that would change the course of their quiet life forever. Now, in his 80s, Tom Oar has understandably reduced his screen time, stepping back from the demanding, all-consuming lifestyle that once defined every waking moment of his year. The icy winters of Montana are no longer just a test of survival. They're a strain on aging bones, tired muscles, and a heart that's weathered more than its fair share of stress. While fans have noticed his gradual absence from Mountain Men, those closest to him say it's less about quitting and more about transitioning into a life that allows him to rest, reflect, and enjoy the time he has left with the people who matter most. Many believe that he and his devoted wife, Nancy, are preparing to make Florida their permanent home. The couple has long used their Florida property as a seasonal retreat, spending winters there to escape the brutal cold of the Yaak Valley and to be closer to family. For them, it's not just a place of warmth, it's a place of comfort, healing, and belonging. In interviews, Tom has been characteristically honest about his thoughts on retirement. But for someone like him, who spent a lifetime riding bulls, taming wild horses, building log cabins, and trapping animals in some of the harshest terrain in America, retirement is a foreign concept. He's admitted that he doesn't even fully understand what it means. After all, he's never truly taken a break. His idea of rest has always included hard work, splitting logs, stretching hides, or teaching the next generation how to live in harmony with the natural world. To Tom, slowing down doesn't mean giving up. It just means adjusting the rhythm of life to better match the beat of his own heart. Despite the natural limitations that come with aging, Tom hasn't fully walked away from Mountain Men. He continues to make appearances on the show, though they're fewer and further between. When he does appear, it's often in the company of his longtime friend and trapping partner, Sean McAfee. The bond between the two men reflects more than a working relationship. It's a shared philosophy, a mutual respect for the land, and an understanding that the knowledge they've gained is not theirs to hoard, but to pass down. Through their work together, Tom has begun to shift from being simply a participant in the lifestyle to being a mentor, a storyteller, and a living relic of a fading tradition. Tom's legacy on Mountain Men is undeniable and far-reaching. He's done more than showcase the rustic charm of a frontier lifestyle. He's opened a window into an entirely different way of living, one rooted in self-reliance, deep respect for nature, and timeless craftsmanship. Whether he's brain-tanning hides with painstaking care, sewing intricate buckskin shirts, or walking miles through the snow to check a trapline, every scene he's in feels like a moment pulled from history. It's not just nostalgia that draws people in, it's the authenticity. Tom never put on a show for the cameras. He simply invited viewers into the world he's been living in for decades, a world where skill, patience, and grit still matter. His journey from the thunderous chaos of rodeo arenas to the quiet stillness of the Montana woods is a testament to the human spirit's ability to adapt and evolve. He went from riding wild broncs under spotlights to tracking beavers by moonlight. Along the way, he embraced challenges that would break most men, all while staying grounded in the values of hard work, humility, and perseverance. The story of Tom Oar isn't just about a man who lives off the grid, it's about a man who never needed the grid in the first place. Though the day may come when Tom finally decides to put away his trapping gear for good, when he and Nancy choose peace and privacy over cameras and curiosity, his story will continue to resonate, not just on television reruns or in interviews, but in the hearts of the countless fans who've found inspiration in his quiet strength and steadfast resolve. His presence has become more than entertainment. It's become a blueprint for a more intentional, grounded way of life. A reminder that even in today's fast-paced, hyper-connected world, there are still people who find joy in simplicity and meaning in solitude. Until that day truly arrives, when Tom Oar closes this chapter for good, fans across the world will keep watching with admiration, respect, and a bit of longing. Longing for that rare kind of man who walks gently on the earth, but leaves deep footprints behind. The kind of man who, even in silence, teaches us how to live better. Because Tom Oar isn't just a mountain man, he's a legend. And legends, even when they grow quiet, are never truly gone.